I want to really get into now. You get it. You're in narcotics, and you get recruited. You get recruited for robbery, homicide, and the case. I forget how many binders were put on your desk. 97 binders or something like that.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
and there was just boxes and boxes and boxes of big 4-inch binders that were just loaded with investigative material that they had compiled over the previous nearly 10 years.
Yeah, and so correct me if I'm wrong. The first case was Christopher Wallace, or did they just happen at the same time, Christopher Wallace and Tupac?
Well, of course, Tupac was murdered in Las Vegas, so technically his case was being handled by another jurisdiction.
Right.
And we were tasked with the responsibility of Biggie's murder because it happened in L.A. But everybody knew that those two were likely going to be connected just because there was this long history of conflict that had gone between both, Biggie Smalls and Tupac, Suge Knight and Puffy Combs, Death Row and Bad Boy. So, when you have a pre-existing conflict as an investigator, you've already got your motive is now built in. You can start to look at, because that's where you start with every investigation is like who had a motive to do this. And that was always understood to be probably going to, that we were probably going to find connections between the two. So yeah, I got recruited over I was working major narcotics, and I get a call from somebody at Robbery Homicide Division, and they said, hey, we're reopening this investigation, and we'd like to have you, come on over and give us a help because we want to put fresh eyes on it. We want to look at it from a fresh, new perspective. And I had a lot of gang experience. I had homicide experience, particularly cold case experience. And so I had the right qualifications to come in and be part of that team. And then we even built a bigger team. And at the end, I think there was 16 of us from 7 different agencies that participated into this new effort to solve the crimes.
Where do you even, I can't even picture, like, where would you even start when you walked into that room, you saw all those binders, right? Like, tell us like where you started, like how it went.
Well, we needed to go through it all just to make sure that nothing was missed. But essentially, there's what we call periodic like updates. And so the previous investigators would have written a summary of the things that they discovered, the people that they thought may have been involved, and some of the investigative steps that they'd taken thus far. So you can get this kind of summarized review of the case, and then you have to get into the actual weeds of it, going back and seeing whether anything was overlooked. All of the conventional investigative methods had been exhausted. So we knew that we were going to have to come up with something a little bit unconventional and apply some things that hadn't been applied before, which is why we federalized the case, because by federalizing the case, we could get access to funding and the amount of money that would help us to take a new approach to it all, like wiretaps. Wiretaps are really expensive investigative tools. And so in order to get a wiretap, you have to exhaust every other investigative method. It has to be like a last resort for us to infringe on people's privacy at that level. And so, we just all collectively came together. We had firearms experts, drug experts, homicide experts, wiretap experts, and we just brought people from all these different fields and their expertise to bear on the case.
And you go through this work. How many years approximately? I think you said 3 or 4 years you were working on this.
We don't get our confessions until nearly 3 years into the case.
Wow.
So we started in 2006 and we had confessions in 2009.
Okay. And then it didn't get prosecuted ultimately. Is that correct?
Correct. There is so much time had passed that most of the responsible parties had passed on. They were all, they were all active gang members, and they died as a result of being in that, with that lifestyle. They were getting shot for unrelated reasons. All of them mostly were shot and killed in unrelated gang actions.
Yeah, so you've gotten to use different channels and different platforms, Netflix with the murder rap, to really put all this out, plus your book, to put all this, investigative work out there and say, we know who did this. It didn't get prosecuted, but we could kind of put it to rest that we've done this. So does part of you say, I feel fulfilled that we did all that work, we put all that time and effort, even though it didn't get prosecuted? Or does part of you still say, I really wish, we were able to prosecute?
Well, I think if I'm speaking on what I wish the families could have had, then I would have liked to have seen some prosecution, because I think that would have given them some closure and some sense of, confidence that the right people were being held responsible. However, in a more divine way, perfect justice took its course, because those people that shot and killed somebody were themselves then shot and killed. And so in one way, it's the perfect justice, an eye for an eye. And so I'm okay with it. I'm at peace with it all. But I do wish that the families, the Shakur families and the Wallace families, would have gotten some type of judicial justice, just so that they could have the confidence of knowing that the people responsible were being held accountable. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.